Welcome, Rabbi Jason.
Shalom, it's great to be with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, this is just a thrill. Every year I get people that say we shouldn't celebrate Christmas because it's pagan. So could you address that, please?
Yeah, of course. I'll start off by saying that, I grew up in a Jewish family, and so Christmas was not something I celebrated as a child growing up. So I say it to just say it's not like it is a tradition that I have a bias towards. Okay, because obviously Jewish people celebrate Hanukkah. We don't celebrate Christmas. But after coming a follower of Yeshua, Jesus, and becoming a Messianic rabbi, obviously the birth of the Messiah is such an important thing. And truly, the birth of Jesus, the birth of Yeshua, is the birth of hope. And that's just a really important thing to remember and to celebrate. And I think there's something known as, I hear this too, there's something known in formal logic as the genetic fallacy. And the genetic fallacy basically says where something comes from determines its meaning for all time. And that's a logical fallacy, right? Where something comes from does not determine what it means, right? You have to look what it means in the contemporary culture. You have to look at what it means and the reasons for the people that are celebrating it. And that's an important point, because when you look in the scriptures, right, the central focus of worship was the temple in Jerusalem, and God gave the design for that temple. And Yeshua, Jesus, went up and celebrated in that temple in many different places throughout the Gospels. And actually, the temple was based off of an Assyrian design, right? It borrowed from Assyrian culture and imageries and the construction, and that was pagan, right? So the most holy house of God took aspects from the pagan culture and incorporated into the very place where God's presence dwelt. And I think that underscores this genetic fallacy that just because something comes from somewhere, that doesn't determine all time what it means. And so I think what happened with the temple and is the same thing that kind of has happened with some of these Christian holidays like Christmas, right? They were originally pagan holidays, and the believers understood that these were so ingrained into the culture that there was no way to get rid of them. And so what did they do? Instead of getting rid of them, they said, look, let's not throw them out, but let's sanctify them by putting a godly purpose or meaning into it. And I think that's actually part of what we're called to do, right? We're called to take the things of this world and sanctify them for the purposes and plans of God and draw people to the Lord through them. And so what started out as pagan, when it is focused on understanding the birth of the Messiah, is actually a good thing, because I don't think it matters to the Lord when we celebrate his birth, as long as we celebrate his birth, right? More of my concern, I think more people's concern should be less about the pagan origins of Christmas and more about the secularization of Christmas, which is becoming just about gifts and devoid of anything spiritual and related to the birth of the Redeemer and the promised Messiah, because the Bible doesn't tell us the day that it was born. If it was important to celebrate it on an exact day, the Bible would have given us the exact day, and we would have known the exact way on how to celebrate it. And it doesn't give us any of that. And so when it doesn't, it gives us the freedom. And I think that the one thing I will say is that I think, obviously, as a Messianic rabbi and as someone who likes to connect the teaching between the old and the new, I think I think believers should get in touch with their Jewish roots and understand the biblical holidays like Hanukkah, like Passover. Jesus didn't celebrate Passover. He didn't celebrate Easter. He celebrated Passover. but that being said, it doesn't have to be about subtraction. It can be about addition, right? I mean, I don't believe, necessarily that Jesus was born on December 25th. I believe he was probably born on the Feast of Tabernacles, which is in the fall. But again, it doesn't make a difference because the Bible doesn't tell us we can have addition and add these things without subtracting one or the other.
Right. You're so good at adding things. And I didn't mention your books, but I really highly recommend your books to everybody. They've just added so much to my own walk. And your latest one, Mysteries of the Messiah, it's like opening up a treasure trove of exciting new discoveries for some of us that maybe didn't have the background that you do with your Hebrew and stuff.
Fusion was birthed out of the belief that the greatest catch the world has ever seen is about to come. But to see that catch, I believe we have to prepare the nets for revival. Shalom, I'm Rabbi Jason Sobel, and God spoke to me about this from John 21. The disciples were fishing all night, they caught nothing, and he told the disciples to cast the net again on the right side of the boat, and this giant catch came in. Friends, what we have to understand in Jewish thought, the right side is associated with the Hebrew scriptures, the Torah, the Word of God. When we bring together the Old Testament and the New Testament, we strengthen the nets, we see the Bible in HD, and we prepare for the great catch that is coming among Israel and the nations. But also, the net is only as strong as the knots, the network of relationships that God is bringing together at this time and at this hour. And I believe not only is the Word of God old and new and understanding of that important, not settling for half inheritance, but the coming together of Jew and Gentile in Messiah, unified in this moment, is key to the great catch, the great move of God that's about to come. We are so excited. That is what we are laboring for. I want to invite you to be part of the tribe at Fusion Global and join me on the journey.